Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show and happy Thursday. It's day 2 of the government shutdown. Is it already backfiring on the Democrats? The White House is warning that mass layoffs in the federal government are imminent, but the Dems seem more concerned about calling Trump's AI videos racist. They really want you to think that he's a racist and his videos are racist. That's the takeaway. That's what they want you to go home with. How's that working? Here now for a reaction to all of today's news, our buddies from the Real Clear Politics podcast, which you can also hear on Sirius XM. Tom Bevan, co-founder and president of Real Clear Politics, Carl Cannon, Washington bureau chief for Real Clear, and Andrew Walworth, chief content officer. Don't miss a moment. Subscribe to this show on YouTube and follow me on Insta, Facebook, and X. Did you know gold is up around 40% this year? That's not speculation. That is reality. And if a portion of your savings is not diversified into gold, you're missing the boat. Here are the facts. Inflation, still too high. The U.S. dollar, still too weak. And the government debt is still growing. This is why central banks are flocking to gold. They're the ones driving prices up to record highs. But it's not too late to buy gold from Birch Gold Group and get in the door right now. Birch Gold will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. You don't pay a dime out of pocket. Just text MK to 989898 and claim your free info kit. There's no obligation. There's just useful information. The best indicator of the future is the past, and in this case, the present. Gold has historically been a safe haven, and it's doing gangbusters right now. So text MK to 989898 right now to claim your free info kit on gold. Text MK to 989898. Protect your future today with Birch Gold. Guys, welcome back.
Great to be with you.
Now, I just want to give you a little tease. Yesterday, we ran a soundbite, and my team, when we finished the show, said, we have a longer, better version of that soundbite where this particular person goes on more about the subject. And I said, this is perfect because I really want to save that for Andrew. so I'm not even going to tell you who it is. Uh-oh. Just know that's coming your way today. Great to have you back. Okay, so let's start with shutdown Orama. I love the sombrero thing. It's highly amusing. The Democrats don't know what to do in response. And so they decided, I guess, to do some sort of a marathon on their YouTube channel. Okay, so in the early hours of the shutdown, Hakeem Jeffries put on his YouTube channel a rotating cast of Democrat House members and influencers to try to keep like a marathon going of it's the Republicans' fault, not the Democrats' fault. And this is how that went. Politico, which is not exactly averse to Democrats, writes, at times, just a few dozen viewers were watching. On YouTube, Democrats peaked at around 1,000 viewers. It had the feel of a throwback telethon with none of the charisma or surprise. Jeffries at one point said, y'all, I ain't scared. I'm from Brooklyn. Okay. The live stream featured 4 frontline Democrats of the 26 who are in competitive districts. Missing stars on the Dem side like AOC and Jasmine Crockett. A possible tell, writes Politico, that they see some risk in participating in something like this. Democrats were not able to field live programming for 3 hours in the middle of the night, despite an internal email desperately seeking participants. The White House, meantime, began live streaming a roughly 3-minute clip of various congressional Democrats in other times speaking out against previous shutdowns. And the viewership on that absolutely dwarfed Jeffries' views. So it doesn't seem to be going very well. Carl, I'll start with you. Thoughts on where it is now, 24 hours in?
Well, the Democrat strategy is a little mystifying. They said that they were closing the government because they wanted to guarantee health care for people, the most vulnerable people, I wouldn't say American citizens, but I don't want to get into that just yet, but the most vulnerable people living in the United States. That's what they said. And then when it happened, their messaging was the Republicans shut down the government. And so, when people are arguing with your thesis, they don't get to your point, because I think swing voters will say, wait a minute, weren't you bragging about you wanted to shut it down? wasn't there a vote in the Senate and all the Democrats voted to shut the government down? So I think that they're trying to score cheat points on blaming the Republicans which interfered with their larger message of why they were doing it.
Yeah. Tom, I don't know. So far, he's right, exactly. That, like, they're not getting their message across. What I'm seeing is sombrero and them getting hammered pretty much at every turn on why they're trying to fund healthcare for illegals, why they're cutting federal paychecks in the name of healthcare for illegals.
I think that's right. And the one of the most interesting things about politics over the last few years, Megyn, is that Democrats don't know how to meme. They can't meme. And Republicans, and Trump in particular, and the MAGA folks have mastered the art, and they continue to do it. So they do this sombrero thing. And then Hakeem Jeffries comes out with this indignant, I'll say it to my face or whatever. And then they put a sombrero on that. And that it's become a running gag now that everybody is in on, it seems like, except for the Democrats who are busy yelling that this is racist. There was just one where they put a sombrero on J.D. Vance, and he was talking in sort of Spanglish about how he can't compromise, he can't negotiate with the Democrats because they're, quote, retardo. I mean, it's this funny thing that has happened here where the Democrats, and you're right, they tried this telethon thing. They can't get any views that way. They did this, I don't know if you saw this cringy video of like the Republican Democrat kiddies trying to explain the shutdown. I mean, it was so bad. So bad. And so they really seem to be just sort of flailing about. And the question is, okay, well, how much is this going to hurt them politically? And, or are we just living in two completely different information bubbles where, the left thinks the Democrats, they're with them, and the right is obviously with Republicans. And so there's very little political damage that can come from this. On the other hand, they're definitely not helping themselves, I don't think. And they are, I think it's clear to everyone that they are the obstacle to opening the government. And so they will pay a political price, but it's just a question of, how much will they pay?
Just before we came to air, Andrew, I saw a clip of Jake Tapper cross-examining Hakeem Jeffries in a not so friendly, mildly friendly way, but it was all about here's the provision right here that shows this will provide health care for illegals, the thing you're arguing over. Like, I know you say it's not true, but here's the provision. So, I mean, even on the left-wing channels now, you're getting the right-wing narrative because it happens to be true. So any journalist who honestly wants to talk about this is going to have to raise the provision that they're arguing over, which indeed will provide coverage for illegals and healthcare.
Yeah, it's a complicated topic. Obviously, it really comes down though to redefining what an illegal is. That's what the real argument is about here. About 6% of the people who are on Medicare are what they call non-citizen enrollees. And these are legal residents, but they're not full citizens. So what the GOP is trying to do is they wanted to exclude some of these now lawful immigrants. These are like Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans who have been given protected status under Biden. So Trump wants to revoke that. So that's really what the fight is over. It's over who qualifies as illegal residents. And Dems, they want to keep these groups and let them remain legal residents. The White House wants to reclassify them. So, it is interesting. We sort of have this discussion about the memes and stuff like that. But if you dig a little bit deeper into what they're talking about, it's just a little more complicated.
Well, I mean, what I see is we passed the big, beautiful bill. We had these debates. The Democrats lost. The Republicans won and passed it. President Trump signed it into law. And now the Democrats want to remove a chunk of it in order to fund the government.
I think that's absolutely true. I think the Democrats did vote for this, but they didn't
vote for it, but they lost.
Vote for it,
but there were enough Republican votes that it passed.
So, Megyn, it's not so much that the Democrats are being hypocritical. They're just saying, we never signed up for this and we're still going to resist it, right?
Yeah, but the law passed. How do you hold up funding for the government by saying, we need to undo your legislation? You have to undo your legislation that you just passed in order for us to just fund the government, which is something you have to do every year.
Well, you can see why that's not a great talking point. So instead, they just say Democrats, they just say Republicans are lying. And this is half the senators have put out, Sheldon Whitehouse put out a thing. The Republicans are just lying about this. And then somebody went on Twitter, I'm supposed to call it X, I guess, and put the provisions from his home state right there next to his statement. And the other thing is that there's two other aspects of it. One is money is fungible. Medicare is paid by the states. If the federal government's giving them money for something else and then the states are using it for that, you can't say that no money is going to people who aren't citizens. And the other part of it is that Democrats in 2019, you remember this, Megyn, I forget who it was, one of the moderators asked them during the debate, and it was this huge cast of characters led by Joe Biden.
Oh,
do you favor?
Oh, it was Savannah Guthrie. Here, let's
so
play.
I'm remembering this right, yeah, and they all raised their hand.
Here it is. Stand by.
Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants. Okay.
Every single Democrat candidate has raised their hand that their plan would provide coverage for illegals.
And my point here is that they've gone in 6 years from bragging about this policy, and I can defend that policy. I could give you a New Testament explanation why it's a really good policy. They've gone from 6 years from saying that's what they believe in to saying if you say that's what they believe in, you're a liar. And we do need an independent media to point that these are not compatible.
No, you're right. This is Al Franken, former comedian, former senator on X. Is J.D. Vance a liar or just woefully ignorant when claiming that Democrats want to give health benefits to undocumented immigrants? And then you look at that soundbite. How many of you would fund healthcare for illegals? Literally every hand is up. Every single one. It's just the proof is everywhere. They're not going to convince people on this. Instead, they're doing cat memes like Tom points out. We should show it just so people can see this is the Democrats fighting back. This is supposed to reflect, I guess, some level of swagger. It's SOT 18.
Republican and Democrat kiddies cannot agree on what should be funded. Democrat kiddies want you to have health care. Republican kiddies do not. Republican kiddies control the Senate, House, and the White House, so they're using that to cut your health care and give money to billionaires. Democrat kitty tries to negotiate, but Republican kitty keeps running away. He has a vacation to get to. Uh-oh, suddenly the money you pay for your health insurance has tripled. Thanks, Republicans.
Oh, my God. And then the Republicans' response was simply one picture of the Democrat kitty with the sombrero, the mustache, and the little, what are they called? That's the little instrument that you shake? Maraca. It's a maraca.
Maraca, yeah.
Little maracas.
I think they were trying to reach their coveted demo of childless cat ladies with that video. That's what that explains why they
Taylor Swift.
No, by the way, just for the record, if you remember that primary, every Democrat also raised their hand, and this was a big deal during that primary. Castro, who's running for president, they wanted to decriminalize border crossings. Right? It was a yes or no question. They all raised their hand for that too. And you remember not too long ago, Bernie Sanders gave an interview where he said, and I posted something on this at the time because it jumped out to me. He was asked a question about illegal immigration. He said, well, nobody wants an open border. That's silly. Democrats have never wanted that. And it's like, they're trying to rewrite history here. They absolutely, obviously, were for this leading into 2020. They were for it the entire time Joe Biden was president. Not a single Democrat stood up and said, Alejandro Mayorkas, what you're doing is wrong. Joe Biden, what you're doing is wrong. They just denied it. They said it wasn't happening. They said, all of these various things to excuse and allow this policy to continue. And now they won't take accountability and responsibility for it.
Okay, so now what we have is a media that understands those facts as you just laid them out. And so instead of doing more of what we did see Jake Tapper try to do today, to his credit, we're getting a deflection into those memes are racist. That Trump is a racist. Why are we seeing a sombrero? Just totally not getting that America has moved on from those days. We are just no longer willing to forget our sense of humor. I speak on behalf, in particular, of all Irish Americans. There's nothing we like more than making fun of one another. And this is a sampling of what we've been seeing on the airwaves. Stop 4.
What does that shameful man do? Something that draws a sombrero and a mustache.
Not
Sombrero?
showing this video that Donald Trump put out, this fake video. It is absolutely disgusting.
Say it to my face.
Trump is continuing to post racist and bizarre AI videos. I'm not going to play that.
It is the ugliest, possibly the single most demented thing he has ever done on social media.
I'm not going to play the whole video because we don't find it meets our standards. So we're the news. We're not going to tell you what it is. Hateful, kind of bigoted, doctored image.
You'll have a very easy time finding it, but you won't find it on this program. I am not going to use this hour to show that kind of Trump filth and depravity.
They don't get it. Like, Tom, it's better to be in on the joke. It's better maybe to give it an eye roll, be like classic Trump. But the Democrat media is doing this because they're much happier just leveling accusations of racism than getting down to the honest truth about what's in this bill and why the Democrats are objecting to it.
I think if it really was, I think if it really was racist, they would show it. I think they know it's not racist and that it's funny and that their audience might actually laugh at it privately or secretly and be like, you know what, that's actually kind of funny. So they just describe it as this depraved. Yeah, I mean, Lawrence O'Donnell, come on, please.
Yeah,
the most depraved thing Trump's ever done.
Tom, if you say it's depraved and filthy, then your watchers on MSNBC, oh, I got to see this, and they call it up.
That's true.
And they're going to see it may be in bad taste. It's not depraved. It's not
the single most demented thing that Donald Trump has ever done.
Right. You know, when who was it that made fun of J.D. Vance and he like leaned into it and laughed about it, right?
He reposted
as I said earlier, what the Democrats have done here and Hakeem Jeffries and the media, they've allowed, I mean, you just showed 4 or 5 of those clips. The Trump War Room and some of the MAGA folks, they put sombreros on every single one of them, including they put a sombrero and mustache on the Hispanic congresswoman that was complaining about it being raped. So they've turned this into a running gag that most of the country, I think, they may find it in bad taste. They may think it's childish, it's juvenile, but I think most people think it's either pretty funny and they get a laugh out of it, or it's kind of harmless. But they certainly don't think, as I don't know what percent of the country lines up with Lawrence O'Donnell and thinks it's the worst thing that's ever happened to the country in the history of America.
Yeah. You don't think it's the single most demented thing that this president or any has ever done? I mean, here to your point, and I'll play this for you, Andy, is a C-SPAN caller calling in. I mean, the C-SPAN, it's not exactly known for its levity, but here we go, SOT 6.
I called Hakeem Jeffries last night and left him a voicemail. And I wanted to know where he got the sombrero from because I wanted to buy one, too, because I thought he looked good in it. It's just a joke. See, nobody can take a joke no more. This country is so evil in so many ways that nobody can take a joke anymore. You do not think that is funny? A mariachi band, Donald Trump playing all those instruments, and Hakeem Jeffries. That is funny. Come on.
He speaks for us all, Andrew, but that's a real, like a regular person just calling into C-SPAN to say, would you lighten up? And then it's perfect to see the C-SPAN anchor like, oh my God, he wants me to laugh at the sombrero. I definitely cannot laugh at the sombrero.
Oh, I like the J.D. Vance. He said, I will make a solemn promise to you that if you help us reopen the government, the sombrero memes will stop. I think.
Right.
You know, I do think a couple things. One, it makes me a little nostalgic for the days of when we were all bemoaning the fact that Twitter had ruined political discourse and that, 126 characters or whatever it was. I mean, now we're talking about memes as if that's the heart of political discourse. And I think, unfortunately, that is sort of at the heart of our political discourse right now. And I think that's kind of sad in a way. But I also think that the Democrats have it's like losing the football. I mean, why do they sort of rise to the bait so quickly on something like this? And it sort of deflects them from making arguments that they could be making, I suppose, because now they're arguing about this and they look like it looks like they can't take a joke. it doesn't advance their argument. You can't beat Trump when it comes to social media. You shouldn't even try. And I haven't seen anybody on the left who comes close to Donald Trump in terms of just sort of an understanding of how you use this new medium in this new era. And he redefines, he just redefines what political discourse is. And we may not like it. We may, think, oh my gosh, I wish we were arguing over op-eds in the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post. But we're not. This is where we are. And he's the master of it.
So it's like they're very upset that he's exploiting Mexican culture in order to make his political point. But, I am old enough to remember taco trucks everywhere, which they said was an acronym that stood for Trump always chickens out. That was before we bombed Iran. But that's what they wanted to say, that he would always chicken out on his threats. And they love to see the little taco trucks show up everywhere. I think we have a little montage of that.
Democrats trolling Trump with the taco truck. The DNC parking this truck outside the Republican National Committee in D.C. to taunt Trump with his new Wall Street nickname, Taco, which means Trump always chickens out. A reference to the many times that he has retreated from his trade war threats, right? Promising something and then lowering them without a negotiation. The truck, obviously featuring an image of Trump as a chicken. This is the White House says Trump has sent out letters to major U.S. trading partners, and they have demanded their quote unquote best offers by the end of the day tomorrow.
Credit once again to Western Lensman, who finds the best stuff. But this is all over the place. They thought that this was wonderful, a wonderful thing to do, Carl, back when it was making fun of Trump. But now that it's making fun of a Democrat, it's racist.
Well, this is I once told this to George Stephanopoulos when he was working for Bill Clinton in another context, Megyn. But the difference between someone who laughs at his enemies and a person who laughs at himself is the difference between a bully and a person with a sense of humor. And, we talk about people on the left aren't funny anymore, but that wasn't always true. I mean, the funniest guy on the left was Al Franken, who you mentioned earlier. Then he decided he was going to run for Congress. And Al Franken spoke at the White House Correspondents' Dinner twice. And the first time, he was really funny. He was not in politics then. He poked more fun at Republicans, but also some at Democrats. Then he decided he was going to get into politics. He later ran for Senate of Minnesota. And the second time, he wasn't funny at all. Hyperpartisanship is almost by definition not funny. And so there's this thing where J.D. Vance retweets the things making fun of him, of the memes poking fun at him. That's actually an essential point here. We're in baseball playoffs, Megyn. Are you a Yankee fan? Because I hesitate to bring up this sport.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm not, but let's argue about that another time.
Well, I mean, I have no choice because the Mets didn't really have a great year. That was my dad's team. But I know enough to know they stunk up the joint this year.
All right. Well, but now we're in baseball playoffs. There's a phrase in baseball, and it's really apropos to this. It's called rabbit ears. You have rabbit ears. And what it means is when somebody's ragging on you, you get mad, you get red in the face, you can see it bothers you. Well, if you do that in baseball, if you show you have rabbit ears, you will subject yourself to unmerciful teasing and hazing, and so people tend to be stoic or laugh along with it. I saw Hakeem Jeffries sort of showed that he had rabbit ears, and I don't mean that in any kind of
You're in trouble now, Carl.
I'm just talking about this baseball phrase. And so he assured that they would keep doing it. And I just, that's such an elemental thing. You'd think he'd know that. Can I make one more comment before I don't mean to monopolize, but you showed that C-SPAN clip. That guy not laughing is John McArdle. He's a great young journalist. He has a terrific sense of humor, but at C-SPAN, they were taught by Brian Lamb, they can't laugh at stuff like this. And I found this out myself when Brian had me on his show, his book show about my book. And it was a book about presidents. And he said, you say good things about presidents in this, every president in this book. And I said, yeah, but you'll notice Richard Nixon's not in there. And it's supposed to be a laugh line. You're in a studio alone with the guy. And he doesn't even crack a smile. He's a poker face. And I finally had to say, Brian, that's a joke. And he still didn't laugh. He goes, yes, I see. So that's the C-SPAN way. I wanted to
C-SPAN's ratings.
I wanted
just
to
make sure you give the audience
people.
Absolutely nothing to connect to. That's what's most important is that you showed zero humanity. That's our business
Megyn,
model.
I'm trying to defend C-SPAN here.
As long as we're on the subject of TV programming, back to the telethon over on Hakeem's YouTube channel, Tom. By 9:55 p.m., they had Don Lemon on there. This is how desperate they got for anyone. So Don Lemon gets on there and asks, what's next? The former CNN host, again, this is political writing, turned independent creator, asked of Representative Ayanna Pressley, Democrat of Massachusetts, how can the people watching, what can they do? Politico finishes with, just 122 people are watching. So you've got Don Lemon sitting there with a member of the squad, and they garnered, this isn't at 4 a.m. either. This is at 9:55 p.m. They garnered less than 130 people in their effort to turn the narrative. I would say this. If I were advising Hakeem Jeffries, I don't know exactly how to land it, but I think the next move should definitely be him at a Mexican restaurant, actually wearing a sombrero, maybe doing a dance, and then at the end saying like one line that he wants people to remember about what this dispute is really about. Like, it's all in good fun. I'll be the first to make fun of myself. I think I look good in this hat. I'm not sure about the mustache, but what I don't look good in is being surrounded by people who don't have their health care. And that's actually what I'm fighting for. Something like that.
Ooh, that's a good ad. I like that.
I think it's too late for that. I think if he had done that originally, but he's already been into overdrive. And so to do that now would be almost seen as capitulation and that he had lost. But if he'd done it proactively, I agree with you, Megyn. Can I just say one other thing, which your lead in brought to mind? It is, and I rag on the media quite a bit on our show. Our listeners will know.
That's one of my favorite parts of your show, which I listen to every day.
I know.
It's the rare podcast I don't miss.
I appreciate that. And we are kindred spirits in that way. And so you'll appreciate this line. It is one of the most satisfying things about the new era that we're in here is that so many of the media grandstanders and scolds, and I'm thinking of Don Lemon, I'm thinking of Jim Acosta, I'm thinking of Joy Reid, are now in their basements getting like 50 people viewing their shows. When they used to be, Jim Acosta used to be, grandstanding in the White House press briefing. Remember, he ripped that microphone out of that young intern's hand in the East Room? I mean, this guy was the biggest asshole who ever lived. And now he's in his basement doing a show to 10 people. So that is ultimately, that is just very, very satisfying. And what you mentioned, Don Lemon being on with like 5 people watching, trying to help the Democrats out.
What can people do? What can all 100 people watching do? We'll give them their marching orders. Representative Pressley. I mean, like, that's how bad things have gotten. That she's not even one of the stars of the squad. She's like third tier squad. And so, look, they don't know what to do. And I don't. So how does this end, you guys? Who waves the white flag first? What will it take? Because now they're saying, technically, if things go forward without any change on October 15th, the troops are going to lose their paychecks, and then shit gets real. So what happens, Andy, do you think, to bring this to a close?
Oh, I think the Democrats cave. I think it's there's no doubt in my mind that at some point they'll have to. There'll be some sort of negotiation worked out where they're going to discuss this between now and the end of the year. But they'll say that we've got enough good faith concessions from Republican leadership that we're going to continue these discussions, and a couple of the Democratic senators will hive off. I don't think that Chuck Schumer will vote for this bill, though. I think he will be a holdout.
He's under a lot of pressure.
Under a lot of pressure, but they'll find the votes. What is it, like 6 votes, Tom?
Yeah.
That they would need, something like that. So that's what I think happens. The one thing that I'll say about this shutdown too is it's the strangest shutdown. It is a partial government shutdown. We should say that. But everything is open. I mean, they didn't close the Smithsonian. They didn't close the national parks. The VA is open. Social Security checks are going out. The post office works. So, a subtle message of this shutdown, I think, to the American people is, hey, maybe we shouldn't take these shutdowns so seriously in the future. I personally, and I said this on the program the other day, I'm so tired of covering shutdowns. It seems like every
shutdown
every
coverage.
2 years.
Hate it.
It goes and goes and goes, and only rarely do they actually get to the point where they shut it down. So at least this time we've got a shutdown to talk about.
Some drama.
I mean, that's some drama, but even the drama is kind of a non-drama, because I think for the average American person, they're
not feeling.
How does this affect them? I'm trying. The one place where it is being felt is at the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Oh yeah, that one guy.
There's one dude sitting there by himself, not producing.
Right.
Not
what if that one guy
reports.
produced better numbers, Andy, than the whole BLS?
But can't you see him there? I guarantee you that guy is there by himself going, da 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 da. Why do I have that song stuck in my head all day these days? He's got nothing to do. Yes, I agree with you. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they need 5, right? Because they had 3 Dems cross over to help, but they lost Rand Paul. So once they lost Rand Paul, that left Republicans with 52. Then 3 Dems came, so they gave them 55. So they need 5 more Dems to vote on this in order to get it. You
could be right, because you're right. Rand Paul says he won't vote for it. So
yeah,
and he won't vote for it. That's for sure.
All right, so that's what I think. And I see your point, but I think the Schumer thing, is very interesting to me, because he was the one who caved the last time. Then he took all this guff for caving, and he caved for good reasons. I mean, he saw that President Trump was going to exploit the shutdown, as he's now threatening to do. He's saying, I'm going to lay off a bunch of people. I'm going to stop funding already. This is like today's story of the shutdown, but he's already saying we're withholding $18 billion in funds from New York City's 2nd Avenue subway and Gateway Tunnel projects, the latter of which connects New Jersey and New York. New York area lawmakers are very, very angry at that. He's canceling nearly $8 billion in funding for energy programs that he characterized as part of the left's climate agenda. The cuts will impact 16 states, all of which voted for Kamala Harris. This is like funding for energy infrastructure projects in places like New York, California, elsewhere. So this is not going to be good for Democrats. This is not going to be good for blue state voters. He's not going to lose many Republican voters with these moves. So he's ratcheting up the pressure. And that brings me back to Chuck Schumer, who I think is normally somebody who understands he needs to behave rationally, that those results are going to hurt Dems more than they're going to hurt Republicans. But he can't do it because this is already being put on him, and he's worried about the AOC polls. There was just a poll last time around that showed her absolutely crushing him. I'm trying to see if I have it in front of me. It was showing her crushing him in a head-to-head matchup. And she had 55%. He had 36%. This is back in March when it comes to the 2028 Democratic Party primary for U.S. Senate. So he's really got to worry because do the Democrats want him to cave or don't they? They're trying to label this the Schumer shutdown, which he doesn't like. What does Schumer do?
Well, you can see him. Just imagine the caucus meeting where, there's all these Democrats. Because you're right, Megyn. He's a rational guy. He knows. But he's like, okay, we need a few Democrats, but I can't be one of them. So you guys are going to have to vote for this and help me out because there's no way that he can do it. I agree with Andy. I think eventually, and we didn't even mention the fact that, Russ vote at OMB. I mean, they're about to start firing people. And that's going to, I think, enrage the Democrats and also hurt them. So,
yes.
So I think there will be enough Democrats that they're going to come up with some sort of face-saving maneuver and open the government back up and claim that they won when they actually didn't, and hope their base buys it and then move on.
I just want to show you this one soundbite of Chuck Schumer on CNN. He was on with John Berman, who asked him about the Schumer shutdown, and look what happened.
Every Republican who's gone on TV the last 12 hours or so has called this the Schumer shutdown. What do you say about that name? Senator Schumer, can you hear me?
I can't hear.
Senator Schumer, can you hear me? I don't think Senator Schumer can hear me right now. Maybe the government shutdown included audio on Capitol Hill.
Or could he?
Tried and true method of avoiding I've got technical difficulties.
Well, Mike Johnson
touching
was
the earpiece.
Mike Johnson was blunt about it. He said that Schumer had shut down. He thought it was irresponsible to shut down the government because of personal considerations. And he was saying that because of what you're saying, Megyn, because he expects to be challenged in a primary. He went along with this, and it begs the question. So if he's not really the Democrats' leader in the Senate, reminds me of that old cartoon. I think it was Pogo. Maybe someone will remember. The crowd is marching by, and the guy says, "Oh, there they go. I must follow them, for I am their leader." And it makes you wonder. So who is the Democrats' leader in the Senate then? If it's AOC, she's not even a senator. That would be kind of a new wrinkle in American politics.
Oh, well, listen to this. So Pelosi gave an interview on Capitol Hill, and AOC came up. It's always interesting to me to watch Nancy Pelosi talk about AOC because, underneath she can't stand her. So she's always got to maneuver. Well, she's very deft at maneuvering. So you get how does she maneuver? Here's how that went. SOT 12.
There was a thought from the Republicans that AOC is directing this, and she said that senators are welcome to go to her office directly. Is she driving that?
Why are you saying such a ridiculous thing?
I'm just quoting what AOC said. She said go to her office directly. Do you think there's any credibility to that?
She's not directing this. She's wonderful. She's a real team player and the rest of that. You started by saying Republicans saying that she's directing this. She is not. Hakeem Jeffries is. And this takes a lot of experience, a lot of unity from the caucus in terms of the point of view. And that's what this is. She's an articulate spokesperson for her point of view.
Oh, boy. First of all, you're not allowed to refer to a black or brown person as articulate. We learned this. That's considered racist. So somebody needs to tell.
Megyn, she's over 80. She gets a pass.
And it was an interesting dodge and weave. What? It's not. I mean, she's fine. She's talented in her own way, but
she's a real team player.
Yeah. Exactly the opposite of what Nancy Pelosi actually thinks.
Yeah, right. But wait a minute. Did you miss that, though? She said that Hakeem Jeffries is the Senate Majority Leader, the Senate Minority Leader. Yeah. Not Chuck Schumer.
Yeah. Well, and also,
who's directing
do we
this?
really want to pin this on Hakeem Jeffries? Hakeem Jeffries is directing this. Great to have the admission. It's you guys. And it's at Hakeem's direction. Now we know exactly who to blame in the next primary. AOC was on MSNBC, MS Now, guys. And what's her messaging, right? Because this is all a proxy fight for the next political election. So everybody's trying to stake out their territory. And that piece of it I am enjoying. I think I speak for all of us there. Here's that with Chris Hayes.
I want to just ask you straight up, are you planning to primary challenge him? Do you think that's why he's doing this?
This is so not about me in this moment. This is about people being able to insure their children. And I will say, because I saw some senators speculating about this, and I saw some Republican members of Congress saying, oh, well, if we have this shutdown, it's because of AOC. Well, if that's the case, my office is open, and you are free to walk in and negotiate with me directly. Because what I'm not going to do is tolerate 4 million uninsured Americans because Donald Trump decided one day that he wants to just make sure that kids are dying because they don't have access to insurance.
I'm in charge. That's what she was saying there. Nancy Pelosi doesn't know shit. I am running this thing. Come right in my door.
I love that. I thought it was great. I mean, my door is open. You come negotiate directly with me. Forget all these other folks. Honestly, I don't think she's going to primary Chuck Schumer. I think she's going to run for president.
Do you really?
I do. I think she's going to be, she's going to give it a good hard look. And
is she old enough, Tom?
She will be.
Yeah,
she will be.
Yeah, she'll be just barely. I mean, it makes me sad because I think about how young she is. And like Charlie was 31 when he was killed. We all knew Charlie Kirk was going to be president one day. He actually only had another 4 years to wait before he could have even tried for it. I mean, he absolutely would have been more skilled than AOC, not as legislatively experienced, but more experienced in life. And when I think of somebody as young as that actually going for it, it makes me miss Charlie even more because, what an opportunity that would have been. How fun would it have been to watch like two young guns like that go at it in a debate? Oh, my God. It's so sad it will never be. Sorry, I took a side turn there. But it is interesting to see AOC stepping into a leadership position there, guys.
Yeah, no, and I think you saw there in that clip why she's effective. I mean, she doesn't take the Trump bait. She sort of, went directly to the issues she cares about or talks about, framed it in this extreme way, and said, come to my office and talk to me. It was pretty forceful. So people should not underestimate AOC. I think that yes, she's young and she's brash, but I think she's shown that she is where the future of the Democratic Party is. It's her and Mamdani. I mean, that all the energy in the party is on the left. And I think that I'm not so sure Schumer will want to run again. I mean, it may not be that the fear of being primaried is so great that he may retire. That's my.
She is T-minus 2 minutes from getting a sombrero.
Well, yes. It would be interesting to see how she would react to that meme. I would be, because her social.
I don't think she'd laugh at herself. I don't think she'd take it well. I think she would
probably not.
But
they're already calling her abuelita online because of her extra. She put on a few pounds. So people are saying.
I think she looks better now, actually.
I'm not going to touch that. Good Lord.
That was not the special thing we had saved for you, Andy. Okay, that comes later. Well, all right. So what do you see, Tom? Andy says it will end with the Democrats caving and soon. Is that your prediction? Let me just get soon or in the distant future?
No, soon. I think when they start firing federal employees, I think it's going to come sooner rather than later.
How about you, Carl?
Last time was 35 days, and I don't think the Justice Department people, military. I think after 2 weeks they don't get paid. I don't think asking 1 million Americans to work without pay is going to go down in either party. I think that the Trump administration will give a little bit, enough for the Democrats to be able to say, okay, we'll do a clean CR and we'll push this down the road. I'm thinking not 35 days, between 2 and 3 weeks.
Maybe by Columbus Day, something like that,
or Native Indigenous Peoples Day, whatever holidays.
Do you know at my daughter's
mid-October.
School, when she was in 5th grade, I think, or was it? No, 7th grade. They asked the kids to argue whether we should keep Columbus Day or change it to Indigenous Peoples Day. My daughter was the only person who said we should keep it. And the teacher sided against her. Unbelievable.
Of course. Do you remember when they tore that statue down in Baltimore, like Christopher Columbus, threw it into the Baltimore Chesapeake Bay, into the harbor? And Nancy Pelosi was asked about it, and she said, "Oh well, people do things. It happens." But I found out her brother was when he was mayor, was at the inauguration of that statue and spoke very highly of it. And she grew up in Little Italy, so sometimes nobody has a sense of history anymore.
Have you guys seen the new statue of Tina Turner?
Ooh, no.
I did see a thing of that, yeah.
Terrible. We'll drop it in for the YouTube audience, but I don't even know where they put it up. But they put it, I appreciate the goal, to honor Tina, which, yes, right on, we should. One of the great diva icons of all time here in America and worldwide. But it was so bad. It took her hair. I don't know what they did to her hair. They tried to get that great hair she had on the cover of What's Love Got to Do with It. It was kind of spiky and cool. And they made it just terrible and kind of flat and weird. It did not do her justice. It wasn't quite as bad or phallic as the MLK memorial thing with the arms and the hugging. We didn't go to that place. It wasn't R-rated, but it was just a fail on every level. Okay, now I want to shift gears, though, because we're talking about sort of what the fight between the Dems and the Republicans, and is it a proxy for, the next election, or at least the Democrats' primary race. And I want to look at Team GOP, because what's happening right now is Trump is advancing his placement on his number one issue, the issue on which he is polling the best, and that is crime. That New York Times Siena poll that came out earlier this week showed crime is his number one issue, and that's post the saber rattling about sending troops in places, the actual sending in troops to Washington, D.C., and to a lesser extent, L.A. to support ICE. And now he's sending troops to support ICE in Portland, Oregon, and he's sending a bunch of troops down to Memphis, Tennessee. That's allowed, and that's the biggest we've seen yet because it was invited by the Republican governor. And that's how the system works. It's fine for him to send troops if requested by the state governor. And so this Republican governor did it. They're worried about Memphis, which is Democrat run. And Stephen Miller, who just throws the best fastball, went down. They all went down there. Pam Bondi was down there. Stephen Miller was down there. Pete Hegseth was down there. They were like, we've got you, Memphis. This is on. It's a partnership. We love you. We're going to make sure there will be no block on which residents feel uncomfortable or unsafe to walk. Here's a little bit of Stephen Miller.
All we ask from you is to show up at roll call every single night with your brothers and sisters in the federal government and to go out and get the criminals off the street. And if you do that, I pledge to you, we will liberate this city from the criminal element that has plagued it for generations. This is not just a strategy shift. This is an attitude shift. We are not going to live in an environment anywhere where there is a street that belongs to a criminal, where there is a neighborhood that belongs to a gang, where there is any physical space anywhere that belongs to anyone other than the law-abiding citizens and families of Memphis. The idea that there is a square inch of block in this city where a citizen doesn't feel safe is unacceptable. This is Memphis. This is the United States of America, and all that bullshit is done. It's over. It's finished.
So good. I have to think, your average voter is feeling the shoot it into my veins in response. Like, who would be against that? Seriously, Tom, who would be like, I prefer the murderers?
Yeah, look, I think crime is an important issue. It was part of the last election. It's going to be part of the coming elections. And I think you mentioned Trump. It's one of his best issues now. I think Stephen Miller is he may not be the best messenger, I think, because he's one of the big bogeymen on the left for that I know you like him, Megyn, but I think the message itself is hard to disagree with. The question is how you go about doing it, right? And we've had this discussion in Chicago and other places. Is like, is it sending in the troops? Is it sending in the National Guard, or is it, letting local law enforcement do their job and supporting them and helping them? And there is some nuance in the polling data on that. But there's no question that this idea, Democrats are losing on the idea that in Chicago, for example, that, everything's just fine. And we should tolerate a certain level of crime and homicide and lawlessness. We know perfection's unattainable, but that doesn't mean we have to let 500 people get killed by, get murdered every year in the city of Chicago, or 300 or whatever the number is. Even though
ICE gets shot at.
Yeah, when it's gone down from where it was a couple of years ago, that still doesn't mean it's acceptable or that we should be accepting of that. And I think that is a very common sense message that does resonate pretty wide and pretty deep.
What do you make of it, Carl?
Well, I think breaking the cycle of crime in these cities is a noble goal. But when I hear, first of all, Stephen Miller and on one side and J.B. Pritzker on the other, I haven't heard anybody say an idea that will help. The Democrats, Tom's pointing out, the Democrats are losing on this issue because they're pretending that if you have 700 people killed in your town and the next year you have 690 that you're doing good work, that's just people think that's insane. The Democrats actually sound like they're defending violent crime. But when Trump just says we're going to send the National Guard and clean up these streets, well, okay, but then what? How long do you keep people in incarceration? Do you build new prisons? How do you break the cycle where people in some of these neighborhoods would rather join a gang than join a church? It's a very complicated problem, and it seems to me Democrats and Republicans need to work together to solve it, and not just hurl empty, goofy talking points at each other.
Well, Stephen Miller was predicting that businesses, quoting here, and investments are going to pour in, and Memphis will be richer than ever before. That could happen. That could happen. It happened in New York after Rudy Giuliani cleaned it up with Bill Bratton. If you bring safety to a town, you are increasing the likelihood of investment and businesses popping up. And if they can get that going in the time that they've agreed to have the troops there, which remains unclear to me as of now, that actually could begin to turn Memphis around. And once you show the people how they could be living as opposed to how they were living, that the standard is raised. The demands are going to be higher for how they have to continue on. So this is a glimpse.
I hope you're
and
right.
It could be a really valuable one. All right, stand by. We got to take a quick break. We will be right back with the guys from Real Clear Politics. Let's get real about what you're snacking on. Did you know that until the 1990s, all chips and fries were cooked in beef tallow? Then big corporations swapped that out for cheap processed seed oils. Well, today, those oils make up 20% of the average American's daily calories, and recent studies link them to metabolic issues and inflammation. And that's not all. We had a nutritionist on who was explaining seed oils give you like bad fat that wants to stay on your body. Who wants that? It's a wake-up call. And this is why I love Vandy crisps. These are delicious potato chips crafted with just 3 ingredients: heirloom potatoes, sea salt, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow. No seed oils, no nonsense. And that tallow isn't just for flavor. It's packed with nutrients that support your skin, brain, and hormones. 100% American-made. Plus, that tallow makes them so satiating, you're not going to binge and then still feel hungry. Are you ready to give Vandy a try? Sometimes you need a salty snack. Go to vandycrisps.com/MK and use the code MK for 25% off your first order. Don't feel like ordering online? That's fine. Vandy is now available nationwide at your local Sprouts supermarket. Stop by and pick up a bag before they're all gone. We absolutely have to keep talking. It's more important now than ever. To cower, to hide, to go silent is not the answer. And all I can tell you is there is no fucking way I am canceling one stop on this tour. Not one stop. I'm going. I'm going to stand on these stages and I'm going to say all the things that we say all the time on this show. We're gonna make it safe for me. We're gonna make it safe for my team and my guests and you. We're going coast to coast and do something really important, which is say what's true and what's real to honor him. I really now more than ever would love to see you all face to face. God, I would love to see you face to face. I need to see you face to face. I am doing this tour and I would love for you to join me. MegynKelly.com for the tickets. So Kamala Harris is having her moment in the sun. I heard you guys talking about this on your show. And she's in a great mood, and she actually has reason to be. Her books are selling fast, like wildfire. 350,000 copies sold so far, which is actually really good. I actually can't wait to see when she hits the New York Times bestseller list if she has the little asterisk next to her number, which not everybody knows means that you used bulk sales to get there. Bulk sales are basically a way of saying, here's $50,000, go buy my book. And some very prominent authors, not my husband, but authors you would know, do this. Always look for the asterisks to see whether they've done that. But in any event, obviously she's got a lot of book sales. And here's just a little sampling of how she's sounding these days. This is her on TikTok Tuesday evening. Her big event was Monday, but this was posted on Tuesday. 30, it's out 30.
I have had the experience many people have had or will have had this experience of walking into a room and being the only one that looks like you or has had your life experience. And my request of you is that when you walk in that room chin up and shoulders back, knowing that we are all in that room with you and you are not alone and you carry the voice of so many people who are proud that you are in that room and expect your voice to be strong.
She can't do it. She cannot do it. She's desperately trying to be Oprah. And she can't be Oprah. And as it turns out, Oprah is kind of a psychopath. I'm going to do a piece on this at some point. Honestly, we were raised by wolves, those of us who watch that show religiously. I figured it out at 54. In any event, Kamala Harris is not even as good as the fake Oprah, never mind the real one. And I don't know, you guys. You seem to be very bullish on her newfound confidence and think that this sales number is going to encourage her to actually run again. I mean, I'll start with you on that, Andrew. Do you believe that?
Yes, I do. Absolutely.
Why? I mean, I love it. I want it, but why?
I think, well, all politicians operate inside a bubble, and in her bubble, this reinforces the view that she's still anointed and she will go forward, and I think she will run again. I think the Washington Post, though, had a great. They said her book tour is even less compelling than her campaign. I think sort of describes it. It's been a shock to me. I will say this. I have not read the book. I've read the excerpts that were in the Atlantic, and I've read about it. And it does seem there's some juicy tidbits in the book, and maybe it's a better book than we expected in that regard. It doesn't seem like it's a great campaign book, so I do expect a second book before she runs, especially because this one's been such a hit. I think she's running. I think the campaign's on, and I think she's gunning for those people who will be on the dais with her in the first debate right now. In the book, she goes after them, sort of one by one.
I don't think Republicans could ask for more, because you have this terrible candidate who now has this artificially inflated sense of self because whoever wrote that book for her managed to make it juicy enough that people want to buy it. Even people who don't like her are buying it because they want to hear her, sling all the mud at these other Democrats. So this has inflated her to the point where she actually thinks she can do this, which she definitely cannot. Puts her back in the primary, which now we're going to get to see the info. Now we're really going to get to see them go after each other. Pete Buttigieg is going to be like, "How gay am I, Kamala?" You're the bigot, right? Everybody she took aim at. Josh Shapiro, all of them. Tim Walz. Who knows who's going to be up there next to her? AOC. And it's going to be the free-for-all that we've wanted. And God, I don't think I'm a good enough person for God to actually make her the nominee again and for us to have that race. But I might be. I'm pretty good. So I don't know. Tom, Carl, what do you guys think?
Can you imagine they're going to be on the debate stage and Pete Buttigieg is going to say, that little boy was me, Kamala. He's going to be, do up t-shirt. It would be awesome. Look, I do think this is, and by the way, I do think this is somewhat, I find it hard to believe that she is selling out all these places. Again, she's coming to Chicago. I said this on our program the other day. She's coming to our show, or coming to Chicago on, I think, the 11th of October. And I was like, oh, it's on a Saturday. I'll go check the tickets. You could barely get in the door for over $100. And people were paying, the average ticket price was like $500 or $600. If you want to sit up front, it was like $3,000 or something. It was like, what? Who are all these people? I think there's a certain level of astroturfing going on here. It is bulk sales of the book, I think.
Tom, you are obligated to go see her. And here's why. I'm going to remind Megyn, she listens to our social, she'll remember this. You said the tickets cost more to see Kamala Harris than to go to the Cubs game.
Yes.
But somebody took you to the Cubs-Padres game yesterday. So now you have to go to
That's true. That is true.
Because you have that money in your pocket. And you know what, Tom? You can put it on your expense account.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Carl. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you owe it to us, Tom. And just bust out your iPhone. Get one of those expensive tickets. Sit up by the front. Bust out your iPhone. And if you could shout out a question, that would be amazing. Like, I don't know. Ask her to do one of her accents.
No, but I do think one of the side effects of this, especially if it is not all organic and there isn't this sort of, groundswell of support for Kamala Harris, which I really do doubt. But one of the side effects of that is going to be it is reinforcing this idea among her and her team that, my gosh, people really do want to hear from Kamala. They do still like her and want to see her, run again. And so I think that may end up being one of the proxies. I don't think, by the way, even if she does run, she's not going to win the primary. I just don't see how she could possibly do that.
You already have your candidate. You said it's AOC. You said she's going to run.
I think she's going to run too. I think 2028 is going to be a free for all on the Democratic side. I think you've got.
Can I ask you too before I toss it to Carl? When does 2028 get started? Not January 1st, 2028, but when does it get started? The race.
It started a month ago when Gavin Newsom said he was running. It's on.
Yeah,
right now.
It's exciting.
There's a shadow primary that's going on right now.
She went back.
Buttigieg is in it, and
she went back into her book, and I think I'm making this up. And put that thing about Gavin Newsom texting her when she asked for his endorsement. And Gavin held a press conference about it and said kind of puckishly, well, I was one of the first people to endorse her. I endorsed her within hours of that text. I'm sure that's in the book too. Well, he knew it wasn't, as Andy pointed out. So it's on right now. They're running.
Yeah. I actually thought that was the most respect I've had for Gavin Newsom, where he didn't call her back. Just for the listening audience who hadn't heard, she said when in that period after Biden passed the baton to her, she was trying to garner support so that nobody else pushed for an open primary. It was just going to be hers to run with. She was calling all these Dems like, back me, endorse me. And she said with Gavin Newsom, she called him and she got a responsive text that just said, hiking. And then
we'll call back. Yeah.
He was one of the first. He was one of the first to come out and back Joe Biden to the hilt immediately when this whole thing after the debate happened, because he knew that if he didn't, it was his best chance of winning and becoming the next nominee. If Kamala Harris did, she's his ultimate rival, and so he was pretty clear about which side he was on right from the jump.
Yeah, the ultimate tell that she's running will be when she starts her podcast. That seems to be the thing you have to do, right? So,
wait, is Megyn running for president?
No, but I'm a better person than I thought I was, because there's no way God would give me these gifts otherwise. If Kamala Harris starts a podcast, I promise to personally promote it every day. I will personally we will be on that like white on rice. We will be making sure we monitor every word she says.
She can title it Unburdened.
Yes, perfect. There you have it.
And we should do all in-depth specials on her school bus fetish, her Venn diagrams.
Venn diagrams, yeah. Don't forget the Venn diagrams.
The duality.
Maybe underestimating her. Listen, the alchemy here is, and I like your theory on it, Megyn. We don't have one. These halls that she's selling out, if she had announced previously to this book that you could come here for free, they wouldn't have been sold out. So now people are paying exorbitant amount of money. So what is going on?
How is that? Yeah, or are they getting paid to go there? Is there some donation being made to some group they belong to, and then they're being sent over there? I mean, that campaign had $2 billion, and they're used to finding a way to fill seats with people who didn't otherwise want to be there.
Same idea as bulk book sales, right? You buy a bunch of tickets and hand them out.
Yeah. Look, guys, I will entertain that possibility. However, I will say this. That book is on track to be one of the 10 bestsellers of the year. I don't think you can do that all through sales like this. I mean, if these trends continue, it's going to be a legitimate bestseller.
Andy, you're so naive.
No, you might be right, because Steve Krakauer was telling me that at least on week one, she didn't have the asterisks. So either they are legit individual sales, or she found a way around it, which also I don't put past her team. I mean, they've found... You would have to have a way of showing fake popularity if you're running Kamala Harris's campaign. And let's not forget, this is the same team largely that ran Joe Biden's campaign and actually tried to make him look alive. I mean, an even greater challenge 4 years earlier, and then again when he ran for re-election. So these are, they're talented people. They couldn't get the ball over the end zone, but they are talented people. All right, but now you raise the issue of starting a podcast, Carl, and that leads me to my next two subjects. We're going to get to Michelle Obama. That's for you, Andy. But first, we're going to start with Chelsea Clinton. Chelsea Clinton. Oh, excuse me. Dr. Chelsea Clinton. Yes, she's pulling a Jill Biden and insisting that we call her Dr. Chelsea Clinton now, because she has her PhD in international studies or something. But her podcast is not about that at all. It's about taking down the MAHA movement, to put it in a much sexier way than she did. She's sick of the lies. And so Dr. Chelsea Clinton is starting a podcast called That Can't Be True. Here is the trailer. Stop 37.
Is it just me, or are things actually really weird right now in the world of public health? Every day brings another confusing headline or far-fetched claim, not to mention the cuts to cancer research, to women's health research, to brain research, to the dismantling of the suicide prevention hotline for LGBTQ plus kids. People's lives are at risk. Welcome to That Can't Be True, a show that sorts fact from fiction, especially on issues impacting our health. I'm Chelsea Clinton, an advocate, author, investor, teacher, and most importantly, mom, navigating this insane time right alongside you. I hope you'll join me and a group of trusted experts as we shine a light on what's real, what's not, and why it matters.
Who in the world is going to listen to this? Who is saying I need more Chelsea Clinton in my life? If only Chelsea Clinton would advise me on the day's news, especially the MAHA movement. What? She has zero expertise that will help her advise on this. She's not a real doctor. And really, she's the ultimate nepo baby, which people can't stand. So explain to me why this is being born.
Before I do that, Megyn, I'm not going to embarrass this reporter by mentioning his name on air today. He works for me. But he once referred to Jill Biden as Dr. Biden in a story.
It's Philip Wegman, isn't it?
I pulled him into my office, and I said, he said, why am I here? I said, we're going to talk about Dr. Jill. He said, okay. I said, let me ask you something. If you were having a stomach ache and you needed it, would you let her take your appendix out? This is an old newsroom thing from my youth. He said, no. I said, then she's not a doctor.
Right on. And honestly,
I'm not going to run down Chelsea Clinton. I covered her parents. I love her dad. I knew her when she was 13, but she's not Dr. Chelsea. That's not happening in our pages if you're listening, Phil Wegman. I'm sorry.
God bless you. I knew it was Phil. I knew it. I could tell. He's so respectful of everybody. It's what we love and hate about him. I do find this very annoying, and I do think Chelsea Clinton's time in the national spotlight has come and gone. She is one of the most annoying people on X. She's constantly defending the Clinton Foundation like it's, the squeaky clean organization her parents lied to us that it was. And she took over this whole graft. And we're supposed to look at her and pretend, Tom, like she's some sort of an authority. Why again? Why? Like she's basically Hunter Biden in a dress and without the drug addiction.
Well, listen, the idea that she's going to use trusted experts to fact check information about all the, handle all the misinformation that's out there, particularly as it pertains to public health, is just, it's like she's swimming in the wrong direction, I think. And clearly, had she launched this podcast, 5 years ago, is there any question about what she would have said about masks and vaccines and shutting down schools for the benefit of those kids? And, it's just like, come on. I think this will appeal to a small section of the Democratic Party or people who are
Violet
Clinton
Affleck
fans or whatever. But beyond that, I just don't understand the appeal of this at all.
I mean, is it lost on anyone that her mother is all over the news right now for having launched the plan to take down the Trump presidency and the Trump campaign before he was president by falsely alleging that he was a Russian stooge, that her mother was the OG inventor of disinformation to advance her own political career. And now Chelsea Clinton wants to be underdog to save the day by combating disinformation being put out by the Trump administration, and in particular, the MAHA strain. Please, I've got a great subject for you to start with, Chelsea. It's very close to home. I can guarantee you get the exclusive. I mean, it's like the elephant in the living room, Andy.
Yeah, well, it's being produced by the Clinton Foundation, too. We should point that out. When you say who wants to listen to this, it doesn't really matter because basically this is a vanity project. It is funded almost, I think, if it isn't entirely funded by the Clinton Foundation, it's the Clinton Foundation is claiming is the producer for it. Look, she has a master's degree from Columbia in public health. So just to give her some credence in this, to talk about this issue. I don't hold it against her that she's not a doctor and that she wants to talk about this. I do think she shouldn't call herself a doctor if she's talking about medical issues. I find that really misleading, and I would urge her to stop doing that because I think it hurts her credibility to the extent she has any on the topic. She did have a podcast earlier. It was called I forget the name of it, but she tried this once before. That podcast ended. So we'll see what happens with this one. She's tried a lot of things in life. She's been, a network
correspondent.
Correspondent.
She's an investor, and
remember, she's been an investor. She's on the board of a couple media companies. She's on the board of the Clinton Foundation. So, this is just the latest career for her, and maybe this will work out as well as the other ones did. Nothing seems to last more than a couple of years.
Do you dare me to tell a heartwarming story about Chelsea Clinton?
No, I have no desire to hear any of that. I can't stand her. But I was enjoying listening to Andy trying to deftly navigate not saying anything too negative about her. No, I think she's a very, as Trump would say, nasty lady. I really can't stand Chelsea Clinton. And there's a reason she's failed at all those things you listed. She really isn't an attractive person in any way. I'm not speaking of her outside, though. I mean, I've got thoughts on that too. But she's not an attractive person. I think she's ugly on the inside, and it projects.
Megyn, that really leads perfectly into my story. I'll make it brief.
All right.
Okay, so I was doing pool duty, and when Bill Clinton was president, we were at Martha's Vineyard. We went to a party. He had a party for the press on the last day, and he said, bring your family. So I brought my kids, and my daughter, Kelly, was 10. And Rush Limbaugh had said something nasty about Chelsea, that she was ugly. She was 13 or 14, and had braces and was kind of awkward the way teenagers are. And even for Rush Limbaugh's fans, it was too much. Anyway, she sweeps into the party, and my daughter, Kelly, turns and looks at her and says, that's Chelsea. And then she says, I had no idea she was so beautiful. And I put that in my pool report, and Clinton called me, said, I appreciate what you wrote. And he should have. That's my story.
That's a nice story about your daughter. Your daughter's very generous in her approach to other people, unlike your host of this particular podcast that you're on right now. She's a nasty person. I'm sorry, but she is. I mean, she's pretty hateful. I can see directly where she gets it. And there's a reason she's failed at everything. And I have to say, you can't just launch a podcast and expect people to come. You actually have to have done something. The reason you guys have a successful podcast is because you have spent your lives immersed in politics. You actually have expertise, and you know everything about the subject that you speak about all day. I've spent the past 30 years of my life either practicing law or in journalism too, which is why I cover politics and law the way I do. So people understand that when they listen to you. Really, what is she going to talk about? Her husband's investments, the graft at the Clinton Foundation, her 1 year on the Today Show that was a nightmare, her master's degree, which as far as I can tell is the only experience she's had with public health. Good luck. And here's the other thing. In order to resonate in the podcast world, you have to have an interesting personality. You actually do. You either have to be clever or nice or controversial or something, just naturally, because if you fake it, they'll know that too. She's none of those things. She's a bore. She's a snobby, snotty, nasty bore. That's how I feel. And so it's not going to go well. Okay.
How do you really feel, Megyn?
Sometimes you really find exactly the words that you want to describe what you're describing. Okay. That leads me to Michelle Obama. Okay. We ran this soundbite of her yesterday, guys. Speaking of people who are on podcasts that are failing. And it was this soundbite all about how she can't stand Barack Obama. It's every soundbite from her is about how little she likes him and can stand him. And she was talking about how she was talking to a relationship therapist on her show and was like, I have to save my commentary during the day if we see each other at lunch because we don't do anything now. And so when I see him we can't talk over lunch. I'm like, save it for dinner because otherwise we'll have nothing to talk about when we get to dinner. So we get to dinner and all I'm really thinking as I sit there looking at him is, I can't stand the way you chew. It drives me crazy the way, this true contempt for the guy. And you wind up feeling really sorry for Barack Obama. You can see why the guy is afraid of her. Anyway, my team informed me that there's more and that we needed to play. And I think it's SOT 31. Lauren, you correct me if I'm wrong, but here we go.
You really go there. And then do you really say, because how many times somebody asks, what are you thinking about? And you're like, well, let me make up a thing because I don't want to actually tell you what I was thinking about.
Happened right now.
Which was the way you're chewing makes me want to smack you upside the head.
That's why guys don't want to have
Would that be an edge?
That would be an edge.
And that would be really interesting. You could like open something up there in a big way.
Why does your chewing annoy me so much?
Hearing another person chewing is you're hearing the essence of who they are, their otherness, their bodily functions.
It's good to know because the girls and I are very irritated with the way Barack chews.
So the girls too. Everyone hates him at the table. This poor man sits down every night to nothing but contempt. And somehow Michelle Obama thinks this is going to make her super relatable by always talking about how much she loathes her life partner and husband, the former president of the United States, Barack Obama. So you tell me whether we were sold a bag of goods by a media that for years wanted us to buy them as like America's it couple and like the example of modern love and how it can be done and you can have it all. And we all want to be Michelle and Barack.
Well, empty nesting is hard. I think that's one thing you can take away from this, right? That, you know, and she talks about this, that her kids aren't there, so they've got nothing else to talk about. So I'm afraid to say, I bet that's a little bit more relatable than you think. I think that there are a lot of wives who feel that way about their husbands and hate the way they chew. I always think of it this way. I think that everything that your spouse does that drives you crazy, you are doing at least the same to them. So that's just part of the equation of being married, I think. The other thing I'd say is that if they have nothing to talk about,
maybe I'm just one of the lucky ones, but nothing my husband does drives me crazy. Literally nothing. Like I really enjoy him.
Oh, yes.
He's a pleasure to spend time with. He's good looking, he's smart. I sit across the table from him kind of dreamy-eyed. And we've been married almost 18 years now. So I think Michelle Obama's, and it's fine if you have an occasional complaint. Of course, that's human. But all she does is complain. It's so bad, Andrew Walworth, that I did a whole spoof on her, which we labeled Megyn O. And I think I nailed it. Here, we pulled that back up just in case you missed it with your busy schedule. Here it is.
People ask me all the time. They want my advice. And so they ask me, what is marriage? What does it mean? And I tell them, it's about misery.
I tell people, and folks think that this is harsh, it's like you're going to have a bad decade.
And when you have a bad decade or two, what you need to remember is it's not you. It's your husband or your children. That's who's to blame.
If you choose to have a traditional marriage and you have kids, let me tell you, the years of 1 to 13 will be bad.
And don't be surprised. People say, oh, it's a bad week, it's a bad day. No, we're talking decades now of bad marriage that you definitely need to blame on someone else.
Nailed it.
Pretty good.
It's pretty good. That's pretty good, yeah.
Spiking the ball in the end zone. I have one for you, Tom Bevan, before you get too comfortable. Stop 32.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd get into the, how do you put up with men? And let me tell you what Barack did. And, and she'd always say, no one's perfect. She used that example. She said every year, it was almost like she had to renew her faith in her marriage. So I think that helped me not walk into my marriage with completely unrealistic expectations that this man that I was going to marry was going to be my all and everything forever and ever. Right. Amen. That's just not, the way it works. That's one of the reasons why I try to be honest. People look at our marriage as the ideal, because in Instagram world, you see two loving people doing a hard thing in the world, always on stage, giving each other a hug after a big speech.
And making it look easy.
And a lot of young people could look at that and go, I want a marriage like Michelle and Barack.
Right.
And it's like, well, let me talk about what marriage is, because it's, even when it looks good, even when it's great, it's hard, It's very easy to quit on a marriage.
Oh my gosh, she's so unhappy. She's so unhappy. She's never said a nice thing about, she gives 30 terrible comments and then 31 she'll remember she needs to say something mildly complimentary because she's making them look bad. But she defaults almost immediately back to how miserable they are, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, there are two two thoughts that I have. One is, we live in an age of oversharing, and she seems to be oversharing here in exquisite detail about her marriage issues, which, especially someone of her stature and who has the sort of status that she has, if you can't say something nice, you better not say anything at all, I would say, number one. Number two, she seems like she has a little bit of imposter syndrome. Like she feels bad that her marriage is portrayed as this ideal when it's not. And so she feels guilty about that, it seems like. And she wants people to know. And look, marriage is hard. I mean, that's sort of obvious to everyone, but it shouldn't be, as hard as she makes it sound. I mean, she does make it sound like she's miserable and it's a struggle. And, while people have their difficulties in marriage, this seems like something a little bit more than that.
To me, this plays right in to leftist narrative, Carl, that we've been hearing more and more. J.D. Vance tried to get at it, perhaps not as articulately as he would have hoped with the childless cat lady's comment, but the Democrats have been leaning in to marriage sucks and children suck. And staying a straight single lady is really the best way. You're not burdened by a man. You're not burdened by these annoying children who the entire 1 through 13 period will be miserable raising. I mean, that's the other thing. Like, can you imagine saying that about your children? 1 through 13 was terrible. It was I've heard mothers say that the first year was rough, or age 2, they were kind of a terror. 1 through 13, that's basically the whole thing, other than high school. Anyway, so this is we've been featuring on the show, articles. There was one in New York Magazine about my husband sucks and he smells bad and I can't stand him and marriage blows and, we're still married, but I'm not enjoying. I think she thinks it's kind of cool to talk this way about her partner.
You may be right, but you also may be giving her too much credit. This doesn't look like a lot of thought went into it. She seems to be just unburdening herself, to use a word, just sort of venting about things. I mean, bodily functions. Is she going to start talking about farts next? I mean, this is like, I don't understand what she's doing, and I don't understand why she's doing it. Miller's Crossing, my favorite gangster movie, the Gabriel Byrne character says, people do things for a reason. But what is her reason here? And you're giving her a reason, the politics of the modern Democratic Party, but this seems more emotive than that and less thought through.
Or maybe it's just a worldview, right? Maybe it's just a worldview, something that's built in, like her worldview that happens to align with what's happening on the Democratic side, where it's just you're negative about the things that make you happy, that should make you happy.
Well, that's like that old bumper sticker, annoy a liberal, work hard and be happy. But what's the source here? What is the real source of her resentment? This guy seems actually from a distance, you don't know. He seems pretty easy to get along with. No drama Obama, pretty easy guy, doesn't yell.
Nor would we even know her name if she didn't marry this guy.
Yeah. I was going to say, she's got the house in Hawaii, the house on Martha's Vineyard, the house in Chicago. They seems like if they really didn't like each other, they wouldn't have to spend this much time together. They could just go to their separate houses, right?
There's the Walworth we've been waiting for. He always drops in with the hammer. He's got the velvet glove, and then the hammer drops eventually. Go ahead, Tom.
But Megyn, I think you pointed out the most interesting thing about that clip was what she said about kids. Like, she did not enjoy being a mother for the vast majority of her kids.
Right. She hated the White House.
In the home.
She hates her marriage and her children.
It doesn't sound like she enjoys being married at all. And I've got 5 kids, and my wife and I talk about this because our youngest now is a freshman in high school, which was a real problem. We're like, where did our babies go? Every stage has wonderful moments and wonderful aspects to it. For her to be able to look at her 2 kids and say, 1 through 13 is terrible. That really is revealing, and it does reveal a lot about her worldview and how she views what happiness looks like to her. And it clearly doesn't look like having kids, and it clearly doesn't look like this particular marriage that she's in. Maybe it's another marriage, but it ain't this one.
Well, I haven't heard her talk about what she loves. Like, she spent a little time practicing law. I've never heard her be like, that That was it for me. I loved being up there making an argument or being a junior associate or whatever. Nothing. She never talks about like that one period of her life where she was really happy. I think she had a miserable childhood. She clearly wasn't raised to like understand that happiness really can be a choice. You know, looking on the bright side, finding a way to laugh at life's challenges. And like she's sort of like, who's the character in Peanuts? Pigpen, who's got the cloud over him all the time? Like she's just walking around with that dark cloud. And yet she's chosen to launch a podcast that's supposed to be about like life and life's issues and getting Michelle Obama to like give you life advice. And in promoting it, she went on, I think it was Amy Schumer's podcast, and she was like, people line up to hear from me. They wait in line to hear what I have to say. And this is what they get? Like, dour, Debbie Downer, dour Michelle, I don't have a tail, and my husband smells bad, Carl.
Well, how about she 1 to 13? How can you not love 4-year-olds? Now, we've all had them. 4-year-olds is the perfect age. Perfect age.
Yeah,
I would give anything to be able to go back and do it over again.
Me too.
But the other thing is, I mean, the idea that at 13, things get better. Most people at 13, I have 3 daughters. They were great throughout, and I would not trade a day of any of it. But, about 13, 14, that's when it gets challenging. I mean,
And she didn't even have boys,
13
Andy.
was a cakewalk, yeah.
She didn't even
You know what she was talking about?
It.
You know, when they turn 14, that's when they really start to get independent. So that's when they needed her less. And therefore were not as annoying to her. It's like, maybe motherhood wasn't for you. I'm not sure, but the veil is getting dropped inadvertently or advertently by her on this podcast every day. And the picture's not so pretty. All right, guys, a pleasure. I love getting to know you this way. It's always interesting and love the pod.
Thanks, Megyn.
Thanks, Megyn.
All right, we'll do it all over again soon. Okay, we got something interesting for you up next. A guy who caught the biggest spy in modern American history, a guy who is spying for the Russians. And my next guest was like the guy who went undercover working under him to nab him. And he's got a warning for all of us on our online activities. If you have ever Googled yourself, you know how many results contain your personal information, stuff you did not know or want out there. It's not by chance. Your information is available. Your name, your address, your phone number, your financial info, income, legal and health history. It can all be sold and shared publicly without your consent. There are real risks here, including financial scams, identity theft, unfair targeting by insurance companies, and general safety risks. But I want to tell you about Incogni. This helps you take control of your online privacy. You sign up, you allow them to act on your behalf, and they demand that these data brokers delete your personal info. Now they've introduced something huge, custom data removals. With their unlimited plan, Incogni's privacy team gets your info taken down from any specific site. Right now, you can get 60% off an annual plan by heading to incogni.com/Megyn and use that code Megyn when you check out to ensure your discount. It is risk-free with their 30-day money-back guarantee. Take your personal data back with Incogni. Get 60% off an annual plan at incogni.com/Megyn. Code Megyn at checkout. Let's be honest. Afternoons can be rough. Energy fades, cravings kick in, and focus goes out the window. The quick fix, another coffee, but that can lead to jitters or a crash later, or it interrupts your sleep. You know the problems. Peak's Sun Goddess Matcha is another option. Whether it's how the day starts or how it gets back on track, this matcha is not just a drink. It can be a better daily habit. It gives steady energy and helps you focus without the ups and downs. This is not just any matcha. It's organic, ceremonial grade, and grown in Japan's pure volcanic soil, far away from pollution. It's shaded longer for more nutrients and blended by tea masters. That's how serious they are about quality. The taste is smooth, creamy, and rich, not bitter like lower quality matcha. It packs powerful antioxidants to keep you sharp and steady. And right now, you can get up to 20% off for life, plus a free rechargeable frother and glass beaker. It's backed by a 90-day money-back guarantee. Go to peaklife.com/Megyn. That's PIQUE life.com/Megyn to try it for yourself. Again, that's PIQUE life.com/Megyn. Joining me now is a national security strategist and former FBI counterintelligence operative who wants to warn all of us on the dangers of cybercrime and how we can protect ourselves. Eric O'Neill began his career in FBI counterintelligence as an undercover operative. He's best known for his role in capturing the notorious spy Robert Hanssen. In 2001, O'Neill helped capture Hanssen, who was an FBI agent at the time spying for the Soviet and Russian intelligence for over 20 years. The case was such a massive story, it turned into a Hollywood movie, of course. Actor Ryan Phillippe starred as O'Neill in the 2007 thriller called Breach. Watch.
I don't know what I'm supposed to be looking for. The guy doesn't drink, goes to church every day.
Faith, family, country. Those are the things that matter.
Come to admire him, I see.
Yes.
Respect him?
I never cared about making headlines. Wanted to make history.
He's a traitor, Eric. Started spying for the Russians in 1985. Good news is you're in the middle of the biggest case we've ever run. The damage he's done to the U.S. government is in the billions. It might be years before we truly know how many deaths he's been responsible for.
Why don't we just arrest him?
Can't do that. Director wants him caught in the act.
What if he's smarter than I am?
He spent the last 20 years outthinking Russian spies. He's smarter than all of us.
So good. He has spent years in national security and cybersecurity, but even he fell for a scam disguised as a reputable speaking engagement. Well, he's now out with a new book. It's called Spies, Lies, and Cybercrime: Cybersecurity Tactics to Outsmart Hackers and Disarm Scammers, which you can pre-order right now. Eric, welcome to the show. This is the book, Spies, Lies, and Cybercrime. Get yours right now so you can have the best of the best advise you on how not to be a victim. And it's sad because these criminals can get right into our homes. They can get right into the palm of our hand thanks to our iPhone when we think we're just doing something innocent, like responding to an email or making a purchase. And before you know it, you're interacting with a dark web criminal.
You're exactly right, Megyn. And first of all, it is wonderful to be on the show with you. And I can't imagine a better place to launch this book. And it looked really good in your hands, by the way. The colors are just right.
They really are.
Yes, you are exactly right. See, what the big misconception about this, a massive growing crime, I mean, cybercrime right now is the biggest growing business on earth, is that attackers aren't using some sort of computer to get into your computer. What they're doing is they're using what's called social engineering to attack us, you and me. And that's spycraft. That's traditional espionage in a modern environment to come after our data. And
like what? Explain social engineering.
Right. So social engineering. So many people think, someone's using some sort of malware and it's computer to computer, but instead what they're doing is they're using texts, email, DMs on social media now in order to fool you into doing something you shouldn't. So, for example, and you set this up, when I was almost compromised by this cybercrime gang, they sent me an email inviting me to speak at this exceptional speaking event in Cape Town, South Africa, at the Hillsong megachurch. And it was this incredibly carefully designed scheme to get me to trust and to get me to do something I shouldn't do, which was literally just send the money. And they almost got me. At the last minute, I realized this is too good to be true and did a little bit of double checking, which I should have done in the beginning, and it would have saved me a lot of pain.
Wow. I know that you are pointing out that they're getting very sophisticated now and trying to fool us by using AI to like mimic voices, if they have access to them, of your loved ones. I couldn't help but think of the time we were almost scammed, and we ran this as an episode one year. We did a whole week on fraud. And what happened was, just briefly, my mother-in-law, God rest her, we lost her this year, she received a phone call from someone claiming to be her daughter, my sister-in-law, claiming to have just been in a car accident where she'd been arrested because she allegedly got in a fight with the cops, and her partner got in a fight with the cops, and they were going to jail, and they needed to be bailed out, and they needed her to wire money to the courthouse right away, and then gave her a courthouse number. So it sounded like legit. But here is a clip of my mother-in-law telling that story.
She said that she was in jail on a drunk driving charge, and that I needed to talk to somebody that she had a telephone number. She just said, I'm so scared. I'm terrified. And I asked her where Brad was. And she said, well, he's in jail too.
The sophistication of this whole thing, Eric, was downright disturbing. We caught it at the last minute, same as you.
I've seen that scam many different times. It's used in a number of different ways. So that's one of them. There's a car accident. I'm in jail. You need to pay my bail. And normally, what happens is the next person you talk to is the public defender, right? Who's saying if you don't pay, they don't get out. There's another one though
that happened,
which is exactly, the public defender. And then the idea there is they want to put pressure on you. And what they'll say is, if I hang up the phone, then your daughter will spend the next week in jail. If you can't pay right away, I can't get her out, right?
That's what they said. They did it on a Friday. They're like, we're going into the weekend. She's going to be stuck there.
Exactly. So that pressure causes you to not take a step back and think, wait, could this be real? Because what they don't want you to do is say, hold on a minute, and then try to call your loved one and see if it's real or not. The other way that this scam works very often is you get a call from a family member, and what they'll do is they'll actually look at social media to find out when that person is on vacation. Then they'll use AI to clone their voice, and it just takes 5 seconds of some clip off social media to clone the voice. And what they'll do is they'll call as your family member and say, Mom, I'm in Panama, or I'm wherever they're on vacation, and I was mugged. I lost my wallet, my phone. I'm using somebody's phone at the hotel. I can't even pay my hotel. I need you to quickly wire me $1,000 or they're going to kick me out on the street. And that's next level. Everyone. I know so many
that's
family
next level,
members who have been hit by this.
In this scam, it was somebody pretending to be my sister-in-law, and she said she broke her nose, and that's why she sounded a little different. She didn't explain why she sounded different, but she did lay the foundation just in case Jackie had any questions. But you're saying now people are taking your voice from your Insta or your online posts, you're running it through an AI machine and making it say things like, I'm stranded, because they've seen that you're in Panama on your socials. And they use that against, let's face it, it's usually an unsuspecting grandparent or elderly person who has zero clue this is even possible. Now, my team tells me you guys have put together this technology with a deep fake of yours truly promoting Spies, Lies, and Cybercrime. Let's take a look.
Spies, Lies, and Cybercrime is the only book you need to read to keep yourself safe from every kind of cyber attack.
Okay, that did not fool me at all, but it could fool somebody very old.
That deepfake right there took me about 2 minutes. I just grabbed the first image of you that popped up in the red dress, because it goes with the book. And then what I did is I just ran it through a suite of software that animates your image. And I didn't clone your voice. I just picked a stock voice that was close to yours. I didn't want to clone your voice without asking permission. But you can see how fast you could do something like that and maybe fool some people online. And this has been used in order by disinformation campaigns. Joe Biden's voice was cloned. They've cloned Trump's voice. They've had pictures of Trump. If you remember when he was going through all those court cases in orange jumpsuits and people thought that he had been arrested. AI can cause a lot of chaos if it's in the wrong hands.
So how on earth are people supposed to protect against this? And then we have to talk about the dark web too, because that's scary.
Oh, certainly. So how do you protect against this? Well, AI, as you saw with that video, it's choppy. That's not a good one. There are much better ones if you take some time. Like I have cloned myself and used it on stage where I came across and then had an argument with myself, and it really scared people in the audience because they're like, which is the real Eric? And you can do a few things. One, you have to be able to take a step back and take a breath sometimes before you take an act. The attacker is going to try to make you do something that you don't feel right doing, like send a wire for $1,000 or a quick payment. They put pressure on you, even when they use AI. So you need to not succumb to the pressure and take a breath. I know it sounds terrible, but one of the easiest things to do is hang up and call back.
Yes.
If you feel like your daughter's been kidnapped, your son, because this is a huge scheme. I've kidnapped your child. And this actually happened to a mother in Arizona. And I outline it in the book. I tell the story. And she was so sure it was her daughter's voice saying, Mom, I'm in trouble. And then this angry voice has said, I'm going to pump your daughter full of drugs and leave her in a ditch in Mexico if you don't pay. She was so scared. But she had the peace of mind to keep him on the phone and then have her friends start calling and calling until they actually reached the daughter. What I do in my family,
believe it or not, when this happened to us, we did not even think to call my sister-in-law and her partner Brad. We didn't. It was so dumb. We were believing
it's not
she was
dumb.
in jail.
It's psychology though. They're putting that pressure on you. They put you in a pressure situation, and we don't, unless you're trained for it. And I know that you're good at pressure situations, but for this kind of scam, you want to act to save someone. You want to act to help. And you don't take that moment to think. And the criminals understand that psychology. They've studied it. They've even hired intelligence officers from Russia and China and Iran to come work for them to help inform these scams.
Oh, that's crazy. That is like downright scary. I want to tell the audience that episode is number 818 in our feed 818. And in there, it has a very fun conclusion because before we sent any money to this guy, we finally did figure it out. Like we finally did catch on that this might be a scam. And I tape recorded the conversation in which I knew at this point, and I still had him on the line, and it has a very interesting ending. It's great. I love this tape. We love it so much. So we played it out in full in episode 818. People should check it out. We have a piece of that deep fake of you warning about AI avatars with yourself in an AI avatar role. Let's watch it. SOT 19B.
Hold on there, Megyn. I'm the real Eric. Don't listen to this other guy. You think you're listening to Eric O'Neill. But what if you're not? I look like him. I sound like him. I even move like him. For all you know, I could be the real Eric. And the one sitting there is just another fake. That's the trick with AI avatars like that other guy. They don't have to be perfect. They just have to make you doubt what's real. One moment of hesitation, one click, and it's too late.
That is very creepy.
Right. That's a little better. So with that deepfake, I actually recorded about 2 minutes of me speaking and uploaded it to the software. And then it is animating, fully animating, and saying what I type. So I just type the script and it says it. And imagine if you're a dark web attacker who has found Eric O'Neill and then downloaded one of my speaking events, right, or YouTube videos, and uses it to create that, and then
you've got a ton to work with.
Call.
So Eric, give us some examples of some of the other stories in the book. There was one with a woman named Jennifer that was pretty disturbing.
Yes, Di Stefano. So that story right there, it happened in April of 2023. This is the mother in Arizona who gets a call from her daughter. Now, it turned out not to be her daughter, but she was sure it was her daughter, and the daughter just said, Mom, I'm in trouble. Actually, she testified in front of Congress about deepfakes and said that a mother knows her daughter's voice, and I was 100% certain it was her. And then the next voice, of course, comes across and says that I'm going to kill your daughter if you don't pay me. And as they're going forward and negotiating, she's negotiating with the kidnapper, who ended up being just a cybercrime gang. They're saying, we're going to send a car to your house to collect the money, which can happen. Sometimes this can move from cyber to physical. Now, Jennifer had the peace of mind to get her friends to start calling her husband, her daughter, and finally connected with her daughter. I think her youngest daughter, they were at a dance class, connected with the older daughter, who was away on a trip with her husband, a ski trip. And the criminals were clever enough to monitor the family's social media, and spy talk, we call that reconnaissance, and strike when the daughter and the husband were away on this trip. So it was going to be hard to contact them. It just so happened they got a little lucky because the mother and the father and daughter, the daughter had gotten sick, so they were in the hotel and not skiing.
Otherwise, yeah, because you usually don't have your phone with you or even on while you're on the mountain. So, I mean, tell me more about how these criminals can come from the so-called dark web. I don't understand the dark web, but just in reading up on your book, you were talking about people go there for organ purchases.
There's the body parts bazaar.
Purchases, like what?
So the dark web, to understand that, here's the like really fast 1 minute primer on the dark web. Right now, the internet, just the amount of data on the internet is almost 100 zettabytes of data. A zettabyte there would be so much paper in a zettabyte. If I stacked it from my feet as high as it would go past the Andromeda galaxy. So we have 180 of those in the internet, which is astronomical. A little under 5% of that is the dark web. And that's the underbelly of the internet. It's a group of anonymous servers. And unless you have the right equipment and know-how, you can't get there. But there is a marketplace for everything. It is the most extreme black market on earth. In fact, I have a friend who goes down to the dark web to look for these scams before they hit us. He calls it depravity at the touch of a button. And it is. You mentioned the body parts bazaar, where you can buy a heart and a shady doctor to transplant it for you. That's around $200,000. You can buy eyes, which can also be transplanted, the corneas, that's $2,000. Hands, feet are $500. I don't know why you would want that, other than
who's buying
the best
hand?
Halloween Yeah, why would you buy a hand? I don't know, but people are creepy and weird, and if there's something you want, you can buy it. But it's also the biggest arms trade, the biggest drug trade on earth. They will literally sell you anything you want. They put it in packages in coffee bags and then send it through U.S. mail to you. And
how do people
unfortunately,
feel comfortable doing this? Aren't there good guys like you, when you were at the FBI, monitoring all of this and then swooping in when a deal like that is made?
The FBI tries its best to monitor. They're very good. Sometimes they go in and they kill the servers for the cybercrime gangs. But the problem is that they have backup servers and they just come right back. Most of the dark web sits in places that don't have cybercrime laws, in countries that don't have extradition to the U.S. They also will take partitions of parts of legitimate servers in countries all over the world. And when they get cut off, they just restore. And so just the cost of cybercrime in the dark web, and this is the most sobering statistic I think I quote in the book. The cost of cybercrime right now is almost $14 trillion. So forget the drugs and the human trafficking and the weapons. Just cybercrime moving through the dark web is $14 trillion. So to give you an example of how much that is, right now the GDP of the US is 28 trillion. The GDP of China is only 18. By next year, the dark web will surpass 18 trillion, which would make it the second largest economy on earth by GDP. Right now, it's number 3, and it's more than Germany and Japan put together.
Now, are those people messing with us, or are they just running their own criminal underworld for people who want to buy body parts? And I'm sure they traffic children. But are they?
Yes, it's the biggest human trafficking. I take my readers in one chapter. I take my readers over my shoulder as I go down into the dark web to the deepest, most depraved places with my friend, and he showed me horrible sites where you can. This is gonna. The kids cover your ears, but you can buy a young girl. You can decide what hotel they're going to deliver her to, and they send you a PDF instructions to build your basement dungeon. It's absolutely terrible, absolutely horrifying.
Oh my God, I can't believe that law enforcement isn't all over this, but I guess they're not always as clever as the bad guys in knowing where to find them.
They try, and they do a good job. The biggest drug trade on earth was called the Silk Road by this guy named the Dread Pirate Roberts. That was his online moniker. They were able to take him down by going from the distribution, the drugs that were landing in people's hands, and backtracking all the way up to the source who had set up these online marketplaces. And then about a year later, it all came right back. Somebody else just took it up. So it's very hard to stop the dark web because of how it's designed. Mm-hmm. And in the book, I explain exactly what the dark web is, its origins, and kind of what you can do to avoid a lot of these dark web cybercrime attacks.
Can we talk about the Robert Hansen case for a minute? Because it's just so interesting. So you were just a young cub at the FBI when you got put on what would become really like the biggest espionage case in modern American history. So what happened? You were like 26 or so, right around there. You get a job working for the FBI. And how did you get connected with this? And what did they tell you the operation was?
I started working for the FBI when I was 22, so I was pretty young. I was an FBI ghost, which people still don't really understand what that is. It's an investigative specialist, part of the Special Surveillance Group. We would Any given day, I would hunt a spy or a terrorist, primarily around Washington, D.C. So these undercover investigations. I was fully undercover for 5 years. And then suddenly I got asked in the strangest way possible by my boss, a supervisory special agent named Gene McClellan, to work on a case that was the most unique case the FBI had ever run. And he shows up at my house early on a Sunday morning, wakes me up and asks me to come outside. And, your boss in government never comes to you, right? You always go to them. So I thought I was getting arrested. And I walk outside and he grins at me because he knows, how law enforcement, are always joking around, but he knows that I'm concerned. And he says, have you ever heard of a guy named Robert Hansen? And I hadn't. And he said, good, we want you to go undercover and catch him. And now I was mad at him because I said, why did you come here to tell me that? He said, because my next meeting is with the director of the FBI. That was Willie Free. And I have to tell him whether you're in or out. And I knew it was going to be incredibly disruptive. That day, I think I had been married 3 months, newlywed with my wife. I was also in law school. But, that was an opportunity and a chance to do something really incredible. So I said yes. And I could have never expected what I was getting into.
You go to work for him undercover. They created like a fake bureau for him to work at. They suspected he might be the one. They knew somebody was leaking to the Soviets, but they didn't know who. And then over 20 years, he was just in the right place too many times that they started to think maybe this guy was very well respected. And they created, I guess, a fake bureau that they wanted him to oversee. And you went to work for him there, like ostensibly as an underling?
Right, precisely. What the issue with Hansen and what I didn't know going into this case was he wasn't just a spy, he was the spy. He was the legendary spy that everyone in the entire intelligence community, FBI, CIA, NSA, you have it, was after. A guy that was only known as the code name Gray Suit. And I didn't know that going into the case, but we had been after him for 2 decades. Entire careers had been broken trying to catch him. And at one point, the FBI went to the top Soviet analyst in the FBI, supervisory special agent, and asked him to help them catch this legendary spy, Gray Suit. That was Robert Hansen. So he was so good at this, they asked him to catch himself. And then they built a mousetrap for him. An office at the FBI. They put him in charge of information assurance, which today would be called cybersecurity, gave him access to data, hoping he would steal and drop it under a footbridge in Vienna, Virginia, and we would catch him ahead of time. And I was put in there undercover to make sure he didn't get away with it. It was the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life.
Did we find out why he was doing it? Was it for money or why?
Yeah, that's a great question, and the question everybody wants to know. Because he has steadfastly, he died in 2023, so now we'll never precisely know, but he steadfastly refused to ever answer that question. But I'm pretty sure I know, because we had so many discussions. And in fact, at the end of the day, it turned out he was recruiting me to take over for him when he left. He began at the FBI hoping to be a spy hunter, and they ended up making him, in his mind, what he thought was a librarian. He was a brilliant analyst. He wasn't really good at operations. And he was mad. So now he's a disgruntled employee. At the same time, he's having all these children. He's a Catholic in Opus Dei. And I'm a Catholic too. He would call me a junior varsity Catholic. And he's having all these kids and he can't afford his life. And you add that angry at your employer, need money desperately, and he chose to spy. And once he was promoted enough that I don't think he needed to spy anymore, he could make ends meet. He continued to do it because it's what made him belong to something bigger than him. And everybody wants that. And to Hansen, he couldn't give it up. It was the most exciting part of his life. And so he continued, and not only continued, he seemed hell-bent to make sure that he was going to be the best damn spy in history. He just gave up just some of the most horrible secrets that have ever been given to Russia or any foreign power, including the lives of people who were our spies, undercover operatives. And he didn't take a lot of money for it. He made under $2 million.
Did he confess?
At the end of the day, I was able to find the information that was, you're an attorney. I found the smoking gun in the case. It was such a perfect piece of evidence He had actually on his Palm Pilot, which for anyone who's younger than Gen X is a personal data system. It was a big clunky thing that you would open up and then you'd stab it with a plastic stick to get the data in. But basically it was just a big digital calendar. He had all of the information we needed to catch him encrypted on that Palm Pilot. And I was able to steal it from him, copy it, and get it back before he was aware it was gone. So we had a slam dunk case. He pled guilty and then spent years being interrogated by the FBI so we could understand what he broke and fix it.
Was there a moment, Eric, and by the way, we're talking to Eric O'Neill about his book, Spies, Lies, and Cybercrime, and many of these details are in here, Eric's backstory and why he got interested in this. Was there a moment where, do you remember the moment when you realized it's true? Because there had to be a beginning. The beginning, they thought maybe him, but you were sent in there to figure out whether this is the guy. Was there the moment where you were like, oh my God, it's him?
Yeah, I had captured some information from him earlier. And of course, when you're undercover, they tell you as little as they possibly can because they don't want to put too much in your head that you could mistakenly reveal, and now the whole thing falls apart. And in fact, the FBI was telling me, literally, I'm going undercover to do this, way to build my confidence. You're probably going to be the one who screws this up. And, my first job was don't make the mistake, right? But there was a moment when I was just done with this. I was trying to get to law school. I was trying to keep my marriage together. I was constantly in this office. And I went to the special agent, a woman named Kate, who's played by Laura Linney in the movie. And I said, I just want out. I really can't do this anymore. This is really disrupting my life. And I don't think we're finding anything. And she looked at me and she said, first of all, you can't get out. You're in, and there's no walking out of here anymore. Mm-hmm. But second of all, that information you just found, I'm going to show it to you. And we realized that he wasn't just a spy who had spied, but the legendary one that we'd been trying to capture since the early 80s. Someone who had given up information that led to the death of every single spy we had in the Soviet Union between 84 and 85. He shares that with a CIA spy named Aldo Games. Wow. So he was, and then I felt like, oh man, now I'm going full bore. I'm going to do everything I can to try to find the evidence that puts him away.
What was it like when you saw him arrested?
I wasn't there at the arrest because I was still undercover at the time. They didn't want him to know that I had found any of this information. I was actually driving home and I got the call. And I remember I got the call and they said, it's done, we got him. And I looked over at my wife. We were driving home, I think, from the Eastern Shore, and we lived right in Washington, D.C. And I asked Kate, I said, can I tell Juliana? And she said, just your wife. We're still trying to get the IO. We don't want any of this out. And I literally pulled off the highway and just looked at her and I said, I got to tell you something, because I'd been lying to her for this entire investigation.
Really?
And I thought she was just going to get out, get a cab, and that was going to be it. But she looked at me and she said, now I understand, and gave me a hug. And I was like, I'm keeping her forever. This is, if she can get through this, we can get through anything. I told her that I got promoted to a computer job at FBI headquarters that was going to let me go to law school and not miss classes at night anymore, that I wasn't going to be working undercover anymore. And I couldn't tell her anything else. I was told to lie. I wasn't allowed to tell her what I was doing.
So meanwhile, you're working on the Robert Hansen case the whole time. How long was it?
So it took me about 3 months to find the evidence that put Hansen away. And that was after 22 years, right, of trying to catch him.
How was it? Was it a situation like an iPhone? I remember the Palm Pilot, but I never owned one. Did you have to get in with a password? Like how did you get into his Palm Pilot?
Right. So it's, if you read the book before Spies, Lies, and Cybercrime, Gray Day, I actually go through the pivotal scene of this case, but also in the movie. We tricked him into going down to the shooting range in the sub-basement. We were on the room 9930 in the 9th floor. And while he was away shooting, and we did it with a pretext, I brought in a section chief and a assistant director that he absolutely hated and caught him off guard. And for the first time, he didn't reach into his bag and grab his Palm Pilot. And so as he left with them to go shoot, I knew it was there. And I grabbed it, ran down 3 flights of steps to where we had a tech team waiting, and they copied it, encryption and all, and then broke the encryption later. And then within 2 weeks of that, we caught him. Now, the scary thing was he goes down to the shooting range, he takes a few shots, and then he comes right back up. I think he realized he left his Palm Pilot, and I had seconds to get it back before him. Wasn't sure if I had the right pocket. And the scary thing about that moment, I recovered from PTSD from this moment. I was 100% sure he's going to walk out of his office and shoot me. There was no way I got it right, but just sometimes God looks out for us, and I did.
That's incredible. So now you've devoted the rest of your life to helping the rest of us not fall victim to professional liars, really. I mean, that's kind of what a spy is, and it's what these cyber thieves are. And is it something, I always think it's, how you get the little alerts on your phone saying like this charge went through or that charge went through. And half the time I'm like, I don't know what that is, but I just assume I authorized it somehow. But that's another way they get you. Like they just get into your bank account and they just take $1 a month from Megyn Kelly, $1 a month from Eric O'Neill, $1 a month from all these people. And like you wouldn't even notice it. But what are some of the other clever ways that they get at us that we might not even be thinking of?
Let's talk about phones, right? Since you mentioned texts, have you ever gotten that text that just goes, "Hey," or I'll meet you at the cookout later, or "Are you picking me up?" Right? Yep. And you think this is stupid. This is a number I don't recognize, and you delete it. Well, some people don't. A lot of people don't. A lot of people are very polite and they'll respond and say, "You must have the wrong number. I'm not invited to a cookout," or whoever is picking you up, you might want to get the number right. These are phishing expeditions by cyber criminals who have these dark web call centers with literally people who are chained to desks. They're kidnapped and they're chained to a desk and they have to work off their commission to be set free. And what they do is they send out these texts on these big lists that the attackers buy off the dark web, and they just try to see if someone replies and they're polite. And then they start these long courtships. So they can use something called romance fraud to get you to fall in love with them, or finance fraud, or something we call pig butchering. And they might take weeks to become your friend before they say something like, "I need money, I'm harmed." And if they've gotten you to fall in love with them, you might send them money. Or the other scam we see all the time that I advise people and I talk about in the book, and I tell a story about a grandfather who lost his whole pension to this, is "Hi, I'm, now that you're my new best friend, let me tell you about my job. And I do this special kind of investment with cryptocurrency." And then you invest $1,000. You give them $1,000, I'm going to help my friend. And they show you a website that looks really slick where your $1,000 has just turned into $3,000 in a week. And you're like, "How is this possible?" And they say, "Cryptocurrency is different." And then you invest all your money with them. And you think it's legitimate until you say, "I would like to withdraw something," and they disappear. In cybercrime, we call that pig butchering because it's based on this old Chinese art of fattening a pig up as big and big and big as you can get it, and then butchering it for as much meat as possible. And that's literally what they're doing to people. So when you get that text that just says, "Hey," be super, super careful.
Do you ever mess with these people when you get these on your phone?
All the time. I have dragged them out for. I've dragged out people for months, just wasting their time. And what I'll ultimately try to do is figure out who they are. And that story about the scammers who almost got me, and a little backstory. They sent me this brilliant scam that I was going to go speak in Cape Town, and they were going to fly me first class. So I was going to fly in the pod. It was going to be the first time I ever did that. And it was going to be my full speaker's fee. And I looked at the church. It seats like 10,000. So I was really excited. I bought the first class ticket for $10,000. And that's how they hook you. Because once you're in for 10, you really want it to be true. There's something called confirmation bias. And the more they can make you want it to be true, the more you'll do dumb things. Then I get a call from an administrative person who works with the church, but also the South African government, that says, we need you to pay for your work permit, your visa, and your repatriation fee. And it was all to the tune of like $1,000. And apparently what they do is once you pay that, it's more and more and more. That's what got me to start thinking whoa, this must not be true. And there were like a cast of 5 characters calling me and talking to me and emailing me. I called
sophisticated.
I called the South African embassy. It's incredibly sophisticated. And they said, "We don't have anything like that." And then I knew it was fake. But to get back to your original question, you don't use your personal cell phones with somebody who runs a company that does cybersecurity and competitive intelligence. I was able to identify each of the threat actors, the bad guys in this cybercrime ring, and get them all arrested in Cape Town. Yeah, and I felt so good. And I did some things before that I don't want to talk about because I don't want to get in trouble, just to make sure I turn the screws. But then I got them all arrested. And so I got the last laugh. But I tell that story on stage, and I tell it right up front in the book because I want to be able to say that these attackers are so clever. And if it can happen to me and I'm trained, it can also happen to you. So we really need to work hard to defend against it.
Yes. I mean, I told the stories too, just about us almost being scammed, because I think people would be shocked that we were so gullible. And my audience was shocked. But it's like one thing leads to another. And with us, we believed it because Doug's mom called him and said she spoke to Diane. Diane had this terrible thing happen to her, and Diane needed our help. We weren't like patient zero in the chain of events. So we just had to believe Doug's mom. Doug's mom was the one who had to believe the scammer, who, of course, she was elderly and so on. And we had never heard of such a scam before, so no alarm bells whatsoever went off for us. So you can be fooled. You know, that's why we told the story, because the more people who hear your story and my story, the less are going to fall for it. And I just, that was the first I knew that they've gotten so sophisticated. Same as yours. We had multiple actors on this scam and multiple phone numbers devoted to, now you can call the court and here's the case file. Now here's the criminal defense attorney. You can talk to him. They knew exactly what we would be doing, and they were prepared for it. And I'm embarrassed to add that they actually wanted the payment in crypto, and we still didn't totally know. That was the beginning of the end, though.
You shouldn't feel embarrassed because this happens to everyone. I have friends, and I never name anyone in the book who it happened to, who are brilliant engineers. One thing you can do to protect against this, especially deep fakes, when they're cloning people, when they're cloning voices, is have what we called in the FBI sign of life. I work counterterror, and there was always going to be a chance that some terrorist group grabbed you and kidnapped you. And what I would do before I deployed was in an envelope, I would write, military does this too, write the answers to 3 questions no one knew the answer to. It was sealed in the envelope. And then if I was kidnapped, they would open the envelope and ask me the question, or ask the kidnapper the question. And if they couldn't answer, they knew I was dead and they were just going to try to ransom back a body. You can do something like that with your family as well. A little easier for me. With my family, my children, my wife, we use the first line of a silly poem that no one's going to guess. So if your kid is kidnapped, they can work some of the poem in and it's real. And if they don't, then it might be a deep fake.
But you would say to the kidnapper, ask her what the poem is. Ask her what our family code word is or whatever. And if they can't repeat that back, then you're being scammed.
Or if you're looking at a deepfake, because deepfake can be video too. You played the video, right? The bad video of you, the good video of me, and you just type whatever you want it to say. Ask that person, if you're talking to your daughter, or you're talking to your husband, and you think it might be a deepfake, ask something they would only know. What's the book you asked me to read the other day? Yeah, the CEO.
Because this person's this fake version is only working off of data that they called about this person from the internet.
Exactly. So something intimate, I know, don't go too intimate, but the book we read. What movie did we watch last week? The attacker's not going to know that. They'll get very flustered and they won't know what to say.
They'll probably just hang up. Yeah, exactly. Wow, this is so interesting. There's so many things we need to do to protect ourselves. It's in Spies, Lies, and Cybercrime by Eric O'Neill. You guys have got to buy the book. You're right, it does look very nice against my background. I'm so grateful that you came by. This was fascinating, Eric.
Thank you for having me. It was a wonderful discussion, and I hope we can do it again.
Yeah, I want to have you back on one of our crime weeks and have you tell me this story in all full detail and walk the audience through how it all went. What a great, great crime story.
Definitely. I listened to your whole crime week. My wife and I listened to your podcast. Actually, we love we call it Megyn in the Morning. That's how we start our day. And I had listened to that crime week. And when I was listening, I'm like, I should be on there. And when I was talking to my team, I said, this is the podcast that I really want to do more than any other.
Well, consider yourself booked. We've got nothing says Christmas like crime. So we always do a week of crime when we go off for Christmas, and people love it. It's become something people look forward to. So let's get into this in granular detail, exactly how we got this bastard. All the best to you, Eric. Good luck with it.
Thank you, Megyn.
Yeah. Don't forget, Spies, Lies, and Cybercrime. Support Eric and buy this. This would be a great gift for, speaking of Christmas, for like anybody in your life going into Christmas. Who doesn't want to read about this? Like interesting spy stories and how to protect yourself and what they're doing on the dark web. It's one of the big questions of mankind in 2025. Speaking of crime, back tomorrow with Kelly's court. And guess what's happening? Diddy gets sentenced. Don't miss that. We'll see you then.